What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to today's edition of Free Tool Friday. My name is Tyler S. Clark, co-founder of Dream Firms, where we create generational wealth and impact for entrepreneurial accountants by systemizing how they attract, win, and retain the business of your dream clients. And to help you to do just that, we have a very special guest, Taylor. We'd love to learn a little bit more about Neo.Tax and what it has the capability of doing for our audience and the accounting industry at large. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background on specifically who you are and ultimately what Neo.Tax's primary value proposition is to the market?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Tyler. Definitely a pleasure being here. So quick background about myself. Started my career in Big Four at KPMG for almost 6-7 years, eventually transitioned into other consulting. And in the last 5 years, I was in venture capital. I've joined a phenomenal company called NeoTax to run their partnerships and business development efforts here. So at NeoTax, what we've done is we've built a product to make it extremely easy for small businesses and accountants to claim the R&D credit. The R&D credit, if not many individuals know, was a credit that was created by the government to incentivize innovation and design, and ultimately a potential payroll deduction or money back from the government to do such things. I created a deck to give a little bit more overview about the R&D credit as well as NeoTax. And yeah, it's super excited to be here and seen phenomenal successes from the partners that we've been able to work with thus far, and happy to have a conversation with anyone following this.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Taylor's going to be able to share his slide deck. And while he brings that up, I just want to emphasize R&D tax credits is the type of thing that historically have been incredibly time consuming and painful to be able to actually get into your your client's hands. And the solution provided by Neo.Tax really has streamlined this in such a way that it's almost hard to believe. So Taylor, please continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's this big tagline that you all have maybe seen either on or through the internet, through conversations with your friends, but it's really it's awesome. It's help your clients save up to $250,000 a year with the R&D tax credit. So I'll quickly go and explain more. What does that mean? What is R&D tax credit? How can NeoTax help? A client testimonial specifically from an accountant that uses our product today, and then we'll go through some discussions or questions that anyone may have. So just quickly jumping in, what is the R&D credit? So as I discussed, the R&D credit was created to incentivize innovation in the US and ultimately futurable taxable profits. So what does that mean? The government wanted to incentivize individuals to keep IP patent technology onshore, and potentially that would ultimately grow future taxable profits for a business. So the R&D credit's actually been around for a really long time. However, the R&D credit for over 35 years could only be applied to income taxes. What that means is small businesses or startups or potentially venture-backed companies who aren't making a profit could not actually apply for the R&D credit. So in 2015, the Congress realized that a lot of innovation and a lot of design and a lot of these patentable activities are actually happening at small businesses or startups. So in 2015, the PATH Act allowed small businesses to apply the credit to payroll taxes instead. So the R&D credit that we're talking about today is specifically associated with this second piece, which is the small businesses deduction for payroll taxes. So just a quick couple of precursors on how big is this and how big of an opportunity is this. So in 2019, the United States spent an estimated over $500 billion on R&D. 486 billion of that came from the private sector. So a lot of, when you think of startups, when you think of small businesses, that's a part of the private sector. So you're talking about over 2/3 of that, or actually more than that, like 3/4 of that came from the private sector for $486 billion. Another interesting fact about R&D spend, overall R&D investments represent 3% of America's GDP. So that's a lot of big numbers and a lot of opportunity to gain for your clients. Going on to the next slide. All right, so who qualifies for the payroll R&D? So there's a lot of more context associated with this, but I want to keep it really high level. So roughly it's startups with less than 5 million in gross receipts and less than 5 years since they've made any revenue. So that's kind of the first qualification. And those who spent money on qualified research. I'll talk more about what qualified research means after this. And then additionally, contract or wages for employees in the US, contractors in the US. So sorry, this section is how do you calculate the payroll credit? So it's wages for employees in the US, contractors in the US are also potential deductions, and then cloud computing. So in 1981, the credit included leased computers, and that language can also ultimately turn into cloud computing costs. And then ultimately supplies for mainly for hardware and biotech companies. So the next section is sorry, I need to pull up one quick thing. So the next section, it talks about what is qualified research. So you all may have heard about something called the 4-part test before. And this is really kind of how you determine if a company qualifies for the R&D credit, and specifically around a test that they put together called the 4-part test. So the 4-part test is qualified purpose. So the question is, has your company demonstrated that the information being discovered was to develop a new product or improved process, company software, or invention? And was it for sale, lease, or license in the trade of business? So as you can think of, did your company create a new product? Did they build any software? Did they create a new process in place? And if so, then they would pass that first part. The second piece is elimination of uncertainty. So has your company demonstrated that it tried to learn something new about the product or process being changed in order to improve and demonstrate that the product could not be improved without going through the discovery process? So ultimately what that means is, as you were building the new product and process, were you doing any testing, seeing, hey, has this been created before? Is this brand new in the market? I think a lot of small businesses and startups are doing that every single day. Well, they are doing that every single day. So this would also pass that test. The third part, has your company demonstrated that it went through the process of elimination, trial and error, or other evaluation of alternatives in order to arrive at this new improved process? Again, if you're creating a new product, building software, you're ultimately going through this. And then lastly, can your technological nature, can your company demonstrate that it's a development of business component relied upon the principles of physical, biological sciences, engineering, or computer sciences? So again, working with tens of thousands of startups, they all apply for this. And so this is kind of the opportunity. So as you think about your client base and thinking about high level, are they developing something in nature? And if so, they could potentially qualify for the R&D credit. So NeoTax. So specifically kind of gave a high level overview. What do we do? So before, it used to take hours in order to process an individual's R&D credits. NeoTax has created a solution for CPAs to file the R&D credits in 10 minutes or less. We say 10 minutes or less because if you had all the information ready in front of you, you could do it within 10 minutes or less. Ultimately, I would say the process maybe takes 30 minutes, potentially a little bit more of obtaining, answering questions, and going through the flow. One of the things that's really attractive to this is that, again, this process used to take hours to do. And we've created software and automation in order to condense this process in a matter of minutes, and if not less than an hour or so. The other thing that's very unique about our product was founded by a former IRS agent who's audited and reviewed thousands of R&D credits. So during the process of walking through the R&D credit, we've built in steps where it feels like an IRS agent is walking through the product with you and asking you questions and probing to make sure that we create the most complete and accurate R&D study out there. So quickly, how are we able to do this? How are we able to save hours of filing for the credit? So as you can see, there's a handful of processes at a high level, and it kind of breaks it down. I'll quickly run through this as But I'm more than happy to demo the product at another later time to show individuals how this actually works. But so in order to obtain an accounting payroll data, normally what you would do, you would ask your client, hey, can you export all these data from your payroll data and in your accounting software? And then you would manually go through and say, hey, which one of these qualify for the R&D credit? Or which one of these activities or expenses qualify for the R&D credit? What we're able to do because of software, we have API integrations into clients' payroll and accounting information. Once they log in and grant access, our software goes and reviews every single transaction and only pulls out the necessary transactions needed in order to calculate the credit. And we're able to do this in under 15 seconds. So verifying the client's eligibility. Again, we ask a part of the 4-part test, a handful of other questions to make sure clients are actually even eligible for the credit. So identify qualified research and expenses. We created a process, again, since we've already pulled in all the necessary information, we created a process that makes it really easy and simple and explains kind of what is a qualified research or a qualified activity. So individuals can quickly, or not quickly, but they can accurately go through and view each activity expense item and determine what percentage of that went to R&D. Ultimately, when you're able to finish the entire process, we at Neo.Tax prepare the 6765, which ultimately goes on top of your, or goes and files with your tax return. So as the accountant, you would receive this document, as well as the 8974. So we'll work with your payroll provider to make sure that the 8974 is included, so your company receives the credit itself. The other item throughout all this, we have a team of tax accounting and experts that are reviewing every R&D credit that we do file. Even though there's a lot of automation behind the scenes, we still have human eyes reviewing each credit because we believe that that is still the needed process in order to ensure a complete and accurate study. Lastly, we prepare a world-class R&D study documentation. Since our product was built by a former IRS agent, we've taken what is the best-in-class studies, consolidated all that information, and ultimately produced it for you and your client. So lastly, well, a couple of things. Partnering with Neo.Tax unlocks massive opportunity. What do I mean by that? So not only are you able to offer a new product offering, such as the R&D credit, you're able to produce credits at a much faster rate than you'd ever have been able to before due to the automation built. So you can now add R&D credits as a solution and service for your clients. The additional thing, you can acquire new customers. We have a number of accounting firms that are part of our preferred partner network. We get thousands or hundreds of applicants to apply for the R&D credit, and they're looking for accounting firms. They're looking for specialty services, and we're happy to pass those leads over to you. Additionally, you can also use R&D to acquire new customers. I'll talk about it and quickly in the next slide about client testimonial. But what we're starting to see is accountants are actually saying are using the R&D credit to acquire customer. They're going to customers and saying, hey, I can offer you an R&D credit and save you money upfront before you even engage with any services with me, and I can charge you at a severely discounted price to the market. And the reason they're able to do that is because they're working with us. And then lastly, you create a new revenue source. The R&D credit is you can obtain a lot of money for your clients and charge them what you deem as appropriate. So last slide is a quick client testimonial. So Taylor was, another Taylor was said, by using Neo.Tax, I was able to uncover $1 million in credits for my clients, and I was able to grow our customer base 3 times. So I'd love to chat more about this. I'd love for you guys to learn and view the product yourself and even potentially try it out with your clients. I'll include a meeting link to learn more about the product and to schedule time directly with me. So hopefully that was super helpful for everyone.
Taylor, that was very informative. And I think that there are a couple of things that are questions that would be clear to me that I think everyone here would like some clarity on. So the pricing on this is somewhat sort of It's unique. And when I say it's unique, I look at this as like, it's the way cutting edge software companies are approaching the market, which is when we deliver you the result, that's when the price comes into consideration. And again, I don't think that was super clear during the presentation, but really it's like, you're not paying NeoTax anything to be a part of this. So literally every single person that's on this call, you should be booking a call to get in-depth information about how this can apply directly to your client base and go through the demo. And when I went through the demo, I was like, oh my, like everybody needs to use this. This is amazing. It's literally multiple hours into like 10 minutes to get a crazy result for your clients. And you don't have to pay literally a cent until the result is generated. So Taylor, talk a little bit more about, again, just the pricing side of this so that people can start to understand, should I be budgeting for this? What, am I not budgeting for this? Like, what's that really look like? I got to unmute you. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm used to always muting myself. Yeah, that's, I think, a super unique advantage, and there's no risk ultimately. In order to use our product is based on performance. If we're not able to uncover money for your clients, we don't charge anything. So at the end of the day, we're not asking for an upfront cost. We're not asking for anything really. We're asking, allow us to show value to you immediately, and then we'll charge based on performance. So what we mean by that is we charge a small nominal fee, which is a relative percentage of the credit. And so, for example, if we're able to uncover, let's say $100,000, we'll charge 10% of the credit, so $10,000, and ultimately to the accountant. And ultimately, what you can do is you can take that and deem what you think is appropriate to charge your client. So the market rate for an R&D credit study is around 20%. So for a $100,000 credit, a client expects to pay around $20,000. Actually, there's even individuals who charge much higher than that, but the relatively market rate is 20%. So for that, we're asking nothing in return. We're asking to save your clients money, and we're asking you to use a product that could potentially not only ignite your accounting practice, but obtain more customers. And the reason we do this internally and why everyone at NeoTax is working so hard for this is because we love small businesses. We love working with small businesses, and we want to drive more and more innovation in design. And it starts from the small businesses. And so to your point, we charge nothing. There is no upfront fee. There is no upfront cost. We only charge based on performance.
And I think that there's maybe a gap in the understanding of what R&D tax credits are applicable for who, what, how can I use this as a marketing tool? And so while there isn't an upfront price to pay to NeoTax right now, and I want to emphasize that, is like, there will be in the not so distant future, because there's going to be a wealth of information that they're capable of providing. And then on top of that, if you go through Dream Firms, the link that's in the chat right now and book a call, we're going to make sure that you can leverage the free information that they're providing right now on top of the free information that we're going to provide to be able to go and acquire new clients that are directly going to be able to benefit from R&D tax credits. And if we just kind of do some napkin math, right? If we kind of just say, okay, well, if I go out there and I have no upfront cost to know how to market it, and I have no upfront costs related to understand who this applies to, but now I know who it applies to and I know how to market it, right? Those costs are not existent. You go and you pick them up, and essentially when you submit the credit, you can literally have a percentage of what that credit is worth in terms of income for 10 minutes. Again, I want to emphasize this, for like 10 minutes of work. So just imagine it's $100,000 credit using Taylor's example, $20,000, 10 minutes of work for fulfillment. What's your hourly rate right now? It's like hard to even think of what that math is. But this is the type of, again, high level advisory result-based service with literally no out-of-pocket cost to be able to start to participate in, that your clients will love you for, and your prospective clients, again, the people who haven't bought from you yet, will say, whoa, that was impressive. why didn't my other accounting firm do this? Or why were they charging 30%? Or why did they not even bring this R&D thing up to me? So again, I just want to emphasize that for everyone, because this is a ridiculous opportunity. If you haven't booked a call yet, don't sleep on this. Again, we're going to give you our digital marketing masterclass when you put your first R&D tax credit through Neo.Tax. Taylor, I want to swing the conversation just in another direction for a second here, because yeah, the opportunity is tremendous for the people who qualify for R&D tax credits. And so maybe talk a little bit about some of the training that you guys are getting ready to develop and roll out that will help it make it more tangible outside of the, again, I think the 4 or 5 things that you shared, it's like it needs to meet these 4 characteristics. But what are the typical examples or typical industries that you see really benefiting from this? Or what is maybe an industry that would surprise most people that would qualify for this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think any company who has received venture capital funding, it's almost 100% that they qualify. So any small or any startup that you may be working with, maybe you're even attempting to break into the startup community. Maybe startups are potential acquisition or type of customer client base that you want. This is a phenomenal carrot to use in order to use this. For startups, this is non-dilutive capital. You're not taking any equity out. You're not giving up money. You potentially can hire a new software engineer for this. So it's great for tax planning. Another interesting, I would say, any patent, if your clients have filed a patent is almost the exact same thing as what qualified research is. And actually, some patents can be deducted for the R&D credit as well. And so these are simple flags that you can quickly look through your client base, say, hey, are there any investors in my company or in my clients that I'm supporting? If so, they could probably apply for the R&D credit. The last thing, sorry, Tyler, I want to quickly touch on is we want to provide educational and training material and marketing material to you, because as you grow, we grow, right? We're based on your performance. Our performance is based on your performance. It's a win-win. It's a win for your customers. It's a win for you, and it's a win for us.
I had a thought that popped up, and please shoot this down if it's incorrect, because I'm not into the whole misinformation thing. But you mentioned patents, and my mind jumped a little bit to, what about franchises? When you think about process improvement and efficiencies and being able to protect ideas, does that possibly apply? Again, I'm trying to understand it, like, what is the scope at which we can look at things that might be outside the traditional mold of like, hey, I'm a startup, I'm heavily invested in developing software, but is there other potential models, even like a franchise from a process and efficiency standpoint, and protecting IP and having big payroll costs, even if you're, again, just sort of in that 5-year period? Is there a chance? Like, what's that look like?
So there is, I think it's case by case, especially when you start looking at franchises or you start looking at e-commerce companies. There is an opportunity there. I think the way you can look at the size of the credit is lower though, right? So like the more technological it is in nature, the more design, the more kind of art, what you would think is like, if it jumps out as the company has R&D, the higher the potential R&D credit, right? The less it jumps out, the lower the R&D credit, which is actually really another interesting point. Normally, companies, even if you would say, let's say, only get a $10,000 R&D credit, a lot of accountants actually don't even give that credit to them because it would take them so much time in order to process the credit. So an individual comes to us and we process a $10,000 credit. They're like, oh, our accountant wouldn't do it because they said our hourly rate is way too much. And so therefore, they're not going to process the credit. So because we created automation, we'll process $5,000 credits. That's okay for us, right? We're not turning money away from small businesses is ultimately at the end of the day.
I really love that. And I think it can't be understated how important it is that every dollar counts for a small business, especially if they're investing really anything into research and development. And I think one of the more interesting parts about how this could be more important than maybe what a lot of us are thinking is like, Dream Firm's a relatively small company, right? We're not crazy. Like, we are investing in software development, right? And like, if we're investing in software development, not with some huge budget, no venture capital, but like if we're doing it, the barrier to entry to be able to get into developing software and proprietary ideas and efficiencies, it's much lower. So even if I only invested like $50,000 into our research and development of proprietary software at dreamleads.app, what up? The point is like, that could apply to me. It could easily apply to the clients that you are talking to that are talking about how are we going to expand our revenue? What is the space we're not playing in? We see this gap for software. We're going to go and start development, and you can encourage that now, right? Like you can say that's a fantastic idea, and here's why. And you are now able to say, and we can easily process this in a fraction of the time that it previously would have taken and still make a pretty healthy buck on it no matter what. And the client will be incredibly grateful for it. So Taylor, listen, I don't want to take up too much time here as I know we're a little bit over, but is there any other major parting shots that you would consider to be of absolute importance to impart on our audience, or just anything at all that you'd like to say before we part ways here?
No, I think you've really highlighted all the things on why we're excited about R&D credits and why we're excited about the future. I think one of the things to note, we're just getting started at Neo.Tax. The R&D credit is step one of a 50-step journey. And we see accountants as a main key player in order for our success. And so if you're interested in learning more, please book a call with us. Please chat more. If you just even are curious about R&D credits, I'm more than happy to talk and provide more value to you as I possibly can.
Perfectly said, Taylor. And look, it's been an absolute pleasure. And again, this is the epitome of Free Tool Friday. Free tool, free knowledge, free expertise. Hop on this guy's calendar. He's an absolute wizard. Neo.Tax is on the upswing. You want to get started with them sooner rather than later because it's not going to stay free forever, right? Like this is an important thing for us to impart on you. You want to get rolling sooner rather than later. And so we brought this to you now so that you can take action on it now and not wait. And again, if you do decide to be able to, if you do push an R&D tax credit through them, Dream Firms is immediately going to give you our digital marketing masterclass for free. So you can go out there and get more high value clients that are going to make most out of this type of advisory service and any other additional ones that you may offer. So again, click it, open it, book your call, speak to Taylor directly, and make Neo.Tax a part of your tech stack because it is what a proactive firm owner would be prioritizing right here and right now. Thank you so much, Taylor. It has been an absolute pleasure. From Taylor to Tyler, remember only one thing, that you can make your dream firm a reality, but we, including Neo.Tax, are here to help you every single step of the way. If you have any additional questions, please hop onto Taylor's calendar and make the most out of his time. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, everyone. And we'll see you on next week's Free Tool Friday.
Thanks, everyone.